So obviously, immediately, let's talk about the new wide receiver room. So if Deebo's gone, immediately people are looking at what are the options that we have. So I think it's going to be based off of a couple of things. So one, obviously there needs to be some kind of talent brought in, some youth talent, whether that be in the draft. I mean, some are going to argue there's guys like Christian Watson that you might be able to get, or maybe some other receivers in the draft. The guy that I'm really interested in, I know it's somebody that a lot of people are kind of questioning, because obviously it is a question mark why a guy so talented is up for a trade, and that's Kadarius Toney from the Giants. Now, obviously, Toney's last season was marred by injuries, to say the least. He was a guy who was drafted obviously pretty high, but couldn't stay healthy. And obviously with the 49ers track record with injury-prone players, it's not the best. However, once again, we're looking at a guy who I believe isn't the one option, right? The one option is Brandon Ayuk. He's there. He is wide receiver one, and everybody else is going to be in a more like a secondary type role. So why I think Toney would be somebody that the 49ers should go after. One, all of the issues that everybody is talking about as far as his health issues, as well as maybe there's some locker room issues, the fact that the Giants are even up for trading him, are the issues that everybody's hearing as well. So that means that even though he was a guy who was picked very high by the Giants, it's not necessarily somebody who is gonna need maybe a high draft pick. They're just looking to get him off the books. And it's not like he's a proven commodity in the sense guys like Tyreek or Deebo or Devontae Adams. So he's not going to get like a package, right? We're talking about somebody who I think the 49ers should offer maybe one of those third round compensatory picks that they have. And if the Giants bite, great. But if you could bring him in, this is a guy who can play that wide back role that the 49ers are going to lose in Deebo. Now, is he going to be as electric as Deebo? No. Is he as physical as Deebo? No. But he still has that wow ability. And so for me, it's somebody who's going to be on a very cheap rookie deal that the team can maximize for the next few years, because obviously he's looking to build up his reputation to get paid in the future. And I would look at it as Kadarius Toney would be open and excited to play in the 49ers, just seeing what the 49ers did with Deebo, that he could come in and play in that same type of role. So for me, that's somebody that the 49ers should try to go after, bring him in. And then, but that's not it. Now, obviously, you're talking about a very young wide receiver room with Ayuk, Toney, Jennings. We need to get some kind of veteran presence. So I put out on Twitter a list of guys that I thought the team should pay attention to when it comes to wide receiver free agents. And the list that I put are Julio Jones, Jarvis Landry, Will Fuller, OBJ, and Tavon Austin. And the reason why I picked these guys is because I think these guys can be valuable either with their level of play on the field, as far as their ability to do multiple things at that wide receiver role, or their ability to be a leader on the team. So from the comments from Twitter, it seems like the two people that or the two or three people that most people were interested in were Julio Jones, Jarvis Landry, and Will Fuller. And I'm actually a fan of any three of those guys. I mean, all of them obviously have question marks. Obviously, them being, still being in the market, there's going to be guys that have question marks. So let's go down the list. Let's start with Will Fuller. Will Fuller obviously is one of the most underrated receivers, I think, in the league. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to see him at his peak because he just can't stay healthy. And once again, we're talking about another injury-prone guy to bring to the roster. Yeah, that is a big question mark, and that is something to be thought about before you bring a guy like Will Fuller in. But, that is just a name to think about. Swan Song, what about Emmanuel Sanders? To my knowledge, Swan Song, I think he retired. I believe he retired this offseason. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I do think that he's done with playing football. But yeah, so but otherwise he would be obviously a great fit as well for the same type of things. James Coombs, I'd stay away from Julio too. Look, Julio obviously isn't the Julio Jones from yonder years, right? But he is somebody that I would be very interested in bringing in. One, he understands this system. He obviously has had a lot of success with Kyle Shanahan as his offensive coordinator. He's a leader. He's not a locker room issue. He's a guy who I think understands where he is at as far as where he is in his career. I believe that, he would be a great asset as far as mentorship for a guy like Brandon Ayuk, as well as somebody who will be able to perform when he could stay healthy. Once again, all of these guys are going to have issues. Julio Jones is a little bit older. He's obviously not performing at the level that we always saw him at, but it's not like he's just a scrub. We're seeing guys like this. You see a guy with the Cardinals like AJ Green, who's somebody who obviously isn't at the level that they used to be, but still could be very productive in a certain type of role. And I believe Julio could be that as the wide receiver too. Next to Brandon Ayuk, I think that he can help in red zone opportunities as well as mentor guys like a Jennings and a Ayuk, and I think that would be invaluable. And I do believe, just like you, Swan Song, I think it's going to be something where you can get on a cheap one-year deal because, once again, he is somebody who is looking to rekindle that reputation that he has, and a lot of people will look at Kyle Shanahan as somebody that they can actually go to, be productive under, and then go out and get a bigger deal. Much like what you mentioned earlier, Swan Song, that's what kind of Emmanuel Sanders was able to do. Went to the 49ers or got traded to the 49ers, had a decent year, went off in free agency, got a contract from New Orleans, and then moved on that way as well. Tinfoil hat, I would take Sanders over Julio, though. I mean, you guys could, if you guys could look that up. I believe Emmanuel Sanders is retired. I think that he retired. I know he's on a lot of the lists of free agents, but I believe that he retired from the league. So I don't think that he's an option. But if you guys could double check that and fact check me on that. But if he would be on the list too. The next guy, and I think the best guy if they can get, is Jarvis Landry. I think he's still a very productive player. He has that tough mentality. He's a guy that'll do whatever needs to be done to help the team win. He's going to be electric blocker. He's going to be a possession guy. The issue with Jarvis Landry is I think he's going to be too expensive for the 49ers to pay. But if he does come cheap, maybe, $7 to $10 million, maybe even 12, 15 million. Once again, we have Jimmy off the books, so maybe they go in and they splurge a little bit, pay maybe 10 to 12 million dollars for a guy like Jarvis Landry. If he's open to that, that's a big if. But if he is open to something like that, I would love. I think Jarvis Landry would be number one in my books if we could get him at a team friendly deal. But more than likely, that's not going to be the case. The other guys I listed on there, OBJ. I think OBJ. The issue with OBJ is he's that injury, man. Like, he would be cool, but what kind of OBJ are you getting? This is his second knee injury, and it did take him some time to get back from the first one till he started being that electric player again with the Rams. So I would probably pass on him just because of the injury issues. And he's obviously older. So what is the upside with that? The reason I picked Tavon Austin, obviously he hasn't had a ton of success in the league, but he is somebody that once again could play in that wide back role. He's a gadget type player that the 49ers could probably put in and, get some production out of without, changing the role too much like what Deebo did. But those are some of the things that I would look at as far as the wide receiver room. And then also, the 49ers can pick up some guys in the draft as well, one or two wide receivers that could either contend for a roster spot, or they could stash as practice players and bring in kind of like what they did with Juwan Jennings, and then in year 2 or so could be a productive player for the team. So that's what I think the wide receiver room should look like. Brandon Ayuk 1, Kadarius Toney, a veteran like Julio Jones, obviously Juwan Jennings, Ray McLeod, and maybe a rookie to round out that room. I think that the 49ers can still be very productive, especially with Trey Lance now being the quarterback. That wide receiver room, I think, could still be what the 49ers need to make sure that the offense is still the type of production that we need to compete for a Super Bowl.